Now we're going to take the action out of this piano. This lifts off. Some have to be unscrewed. And these have bolts or wing nuts that connect these and disconnect them. Key slip that's often screwed in and sometimes not. Just put that up there. And at this point, you have to make sure you don't have any keys depressed, as the hammers will go up and can break off as they come out. So we have to be very careful to pull it out without making any keys go down or hammers go up, kind of shimming it out. And this is known as the piano action. Comes out like a drawer, and in grand pianos makes it quite easy and accessible to work on. Before we were looking at one model of one note. Now we have 88 of them, 88 hammers and hammer shanks, 88 keys, the center rails, and the keyboard, keys, center rails, and the keyboard. The keys are sitting on what's called a key bed. This is the key bed, and this one's beautifully done, made of spruce, like the soundboard, so it actually helps carry the tone from one part of the piano to this part and through to the next part. Whenever they're adjacent and touching each other, they can help each other sympathetically vibrate. You'll notice there's a hardwood set in here, and one in here. This is beech. That's where the pins are driven into it. And you want a hardwood to contain that screw. Softwood helps reflect the tone, but it won't hold a screw as tightly as a hardwood. Also, there's some reinforcements with hardwood here and this quarter sawn, which makes it more expensive to build, but much sturdier in construction. We have a hardwood piece going along this way to help keep that stable. So the key frame is sitting on top of the key bed right here. And a lot of pianos are using particle board and layers of foam between those particle boards, but the better pianos like this key bed, we cut through this to put players in so we know, is made out of spruce again, that helps carry the tone from this part to that part and back through the key, through the frame and the rim. And it just has a piece of beech on the top for support and the bottom, but internally it's spruce again. Now in the better pianos, this screw, which is called the capstan screw, way back at the end of the piano key, and often they're just screwed into the softwood of the keys. Keys usually are soft because you don't want too much inertia. But the better pianos have a hardwood built in, and it's hard to see. But it's actually a different piece of wood glued into the back of this key to contain that screw to keep it more secure through a longer life. This piano, which happens to be a longer, bigger one, is even further enhanced with reinforcement by having a hardwood from here all the way back to that end of the key. A lot of times this is not as long. These are heavier hammers as they go up to get lighter and lighter because they're hitting single thin wires instead of wrapped copper wires here. So that has to be adjusted by having the heaviness of the hammer in relationship to the amount of strings and the length of the strings. In most pianos, to get the proper weight, we have individually weighted keys whereby little leads are inserted into the side of the key and measured to get the right amount of them and the right weight of them, so that each key feels like the same weight as the next. Now in Europe, they're eliminating the use of lead in many products, including pianos in the future, because of lead poisoning. so that there's been other systems developed. One is by the use of magnets, by how far the magnet is away from its counterpart, and it can be adjusted closer or further that will thereby affect the weight of each key. And it's very successfully done. Very beautiful and even, and actually easier to adjust, because when we adjust the weights on these keys or do anything like make the key dip lower or higher by, before we were talking about these bushings underneath and these pads, so if we change the key dip, you'll see it also changes the height of the hammer, which we might have to lower or raise to get proper. You want them all to be level, and each hammer has to fall like 1/4 of an inch from the string. If it's too close, it'll double strike the string. If it's too far, it'll be quite heavy feeling, and if it's really close, it'll block and actually set against the string and not allow it to vibrate properly. So all of these adjustments are necessary when you change anything, and sometimes you do one thing, you have to do it 88 times, and then you might have to do 10 things in order to get everything in the right, proper alignment and position. That's all called action regulation, when you are affecting any changes in the screws and the relationships between any two parts. Voicing is what we were talking about earlier, when you fiddle with the hammers, making them harder, less hard, lining them to the strings and making them match properly. That is all called voicing. That's another special art that our technicians are involved with doing, and some are better on one operation than the other. Tuning is just adjusting each string by tightening or loosening the pins involved with a tuning wrench, therefore making the string shorter or longer, or in other words, sharper if it's shorter, and flatter if it's shorter, until they're in the right position there. But that's a separate operation, tuning, from voicing and from regulating. Voicing and action regulation are separate operations from tuning. Tuning is what most tuners do. We call ours technicians because they do the voicing and the regulation as well. But tuning is fiddling with the pins underneath here that are able to be tightened or loosened. When you're tightening it, you're actually shortening the string, therefore making it a little higher in pitch. And if you turn it the other way, you are lengthening the string, making it a little lower in pitch. And obviously you want them all at the proper pitches, and tuning is therefore adjusting them in the right position, and it's an art in itself too. Tuning is not so much listening to whether it's sharp or flat, because an ear can do that, or these tuning machines can do that. That's not much of a difference on which is doing it. What is important is getting the pins to stay in their proper place, manipulating that pin and getting it to set. Good tuners know how to do this. Other people, it's tuned, and an hour later it's all out of tune because they're not staying in their proper position. That's a mark of a good tuner.